This episode of eHealth Radio is brought to you by uNatural, empowering your health as natural as counting sheep and much, much more effective. Serenity is the natural sleep aid supplement that helps you wind down without the grogginess and fogginess that habit-forming sleep aids can sometimes cause. Try it risk-free for 90 days with 15% off from eUnatural.com using checkout code eHealth15. Again, that is uNatural.com, checkout code eHealth15.
This is the eHealth Radio Network, your source for health advice on demand. And now your host, Eric Michaels.
Thanks for joining us once again here on the eHealth Radio Network. This is your host, Eric Michaels. eHealth Radio gives you the most current health information, news, and advice featuring some of the leading innovators in healthcare and wellness who are changing healthcare as we know it. For more eHealth Radio reports, we invite you to visit our main radio channel site at eHealthRadioNetwork.com. Today I have Powerful You creator, the world's first personal evolution company, award-winning filmmaker and co-author of Perception, Seeing is Not Believing, Mr. James Purpura, with us today to talk about how to love yourself. He has created a documentary along with a book, both with the same title, Perception, Seeing is Not Believing. And Mr. Purpura, thanks for joining us once again here on eHealth Radio.
I am so excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it is certainly our pleasure, and I believe you have some timely information for us as well. So, for starters, tell us, what is the premise behind Powerful You, and what is the first step in loving oneself?
So the premise behind Powerful You is that everybody's on a path to somewhere. If you don't wake up and pay attention, you might end up somewhere you don't want to be. And we're really trying to evolve not only the individual, but the whole industry of personal development, because we think it's been kind of hijacked and it's very money-based centric. It's not about, personal development. It's more about, personal wealth development. And we really want to make the best content in the world affordable for everybody.
And that sounds like a win-win situation for everyone that were to tap into that. Now, tell us, why do we sometimes not see ourselves as others see us?
Well, actually, what's really funny is that we see ourselves as others see us when we were children, right? And so a lot of times I talk to people, I'm like, something as simple as self-esteem. I'm like, would you like to have better self-esteem? They're like, absolutely. And I'm like, why? Because it would impact everything that I do, everything that I am. It would impact all aspects of my life. And I'm like, well, your self-esteem is just your opinion of yourself. Why don't you just change it, right? And then that's where they get stuck. And here's what people fundamentally don't understand. When I ask people who they are, they don't actually know. And what you are is you're the sum totals of your beliefs about yourself. But where did those beliefs come from? And they came from our childhood. We chose to believe things about ourselves that are not true based on the interpretations of others based on childhood experiences. And we've never gone in and questioned those beliefs, right? So there seems to be a gap between, what people are seeing with us and what we truly believe about ourselves, because, those beliefs are based in, past experiences, when, our current experiences are dictating something different and new, and people cannot see it.
Certainly an interesting way to look at it, and really appreciate the information. Now, tell us also another question for you. How can we know how others truly perceive us?
Well, that's a great question. And the answer is that life is a mirror, right? Everything you experience is based on perception. The core understanding around perception is that you do not see reality. You only see what you think reality is based on your past experiences. So I like to tell people to think of life as a video game. Your beliefs are being projected on the screen of the world, and that's what you're interacting with. So it actually doesn't matter how other people perceive you, because all you're interacting with is how you perceive yourself. And they're reflecting that back to you, and it can't be in any other way based on the way the mind works. But if you want to stand outside of your perception, what you have to be able to do is to be able to seek clarity in every interaction to make sure what you think you understood from that interaction is actually what the other person was intending. And that comes down to being willing to question everything, every interpretation, every thought, every feeling, every emotion, so that you can see clarity around, what's really going on in your life. And that's how you start the evolution process.
Well, there is certainly more to perception than one would have ever believed, and you're certainly bringing us to light in that regard. Now, as natural as counting sheep and much, much more effective. Try Serenity at 15% off from eunatural.com with checkout code eHealth15. Again, that is eunatural.com with checkout code eHealth15. Today, we're speaking with Mr. James Purpura, the creator of Powerful You, the world's first personal evolution company, award-winning filmmaker and co-author of Perception. Seeing is not believing. He's joined us here today on eHealth Radio's health news and personal development channels, a part of the eHealth Radio Network. Now, Mr. Purpura, why do some of us seem to be inherently negative and others eternally optimistic?
Well, I mean, it's the same thing we've been talking about, right? It's this idea of, what beliefs did you adopt as a child that are still playing a role today? And so what I tell people all the time is that things that we believed about ourselves when we were children probably don't serve us as an adult. And that's where fear comes into the equation, right? When we're a child, we actually adopt fear to protect us because we don't have the mental and physical capacity to do so ourselves. We adopt fear to do that. But unfortunately, even though that we're adults now and we do have those capabilities, our childhood fears still kind of dominate our existence. And so when we talk about things like self-love, here's where self-love comes in. Is the first thing you have to do is you have to become clear about who it is you believe that you are and where you got those beliefs from, right? And it's like, well, for me, my kindergarten teacher every single day of class told me I was stupid and retarded and had the whole class tell me that. And that's where my story started. So I chose to adopt that belief, right? And that belief then started a course of action that ultimately just about ruined and killed me because, I ended up on drugs. I ended up in jail and in some very bad situations because I chose to believe, based off the narrative of somebody else who was probably hurt when they were a child, that I was stupid, that I was not good enough, and that I was never going to amount to anything. And guess what? When I believed that, that's what came true.
Well, everyone certainly learns from personal experiences in their past, and giving back, that's pretty awesome right there. Thanks for that. Now, how do we change? And does change always have to be painful?
Well, unfortunately, for the most part, it starts out that way because most people don't change until the pain of not changing now outweighs the pain of changing, right? And so that's what propels them forward. But you don't actually have to wait. And so what I tell people is, I like to tell them this narrative, like, what if, you've never made a bad decision? Most people go, James, you're crazy. I've made a lot of bad decisions. And I'm like, what if it was true that you never had, and I can prove that? And they're like, well, I guess I don't know. I've never really thought about it. And the truth is that nobody's ever really made a bad decision. They've only ever made decisions with bad information. And that may sound like phonetics, but the truth will set you free. What it means is that we all make decisions the same way. When we're getting ready to make a decision, we evaluate all of the information around us, and then we make the best decision we can with the information that's available to us. And the reason that's exciting is because it means that there's nothing wrong with you. We're all the same. I'm not, if somebody has something that you want that you don't currently have, it's not because they're smarter, brighter, more intelligent, have more gifts. It's because they have better information. Great information leads to great decisions, leads to great outcome. Bad information leads to bad decisions, leads to bad outcomes. So I like to tell people, if your life is not what you want it to be, it's not because you've done anything wrong. It's because you made the only decision you could with the information you had available to you. Life comes down to information. Now, what is the source of our information? Our personal source of information are two things: our perceptions, which are based on our past beliefs, and then the second thing is our emotions. They are the feedback for what we believe, what we feel, how we interact with the world. And so if we fail as human beings to learn the fundamental principles of a deep dive on how perception works and how your emotions work and what they mean, then you've failed to understand the concepts that dictate every single experience that you have. And so the opportunity we have, and that's what we wrote into the book, into the movie, it's really about making you understand the fundamental principles of the information that you source to create your existence and make your decisions. When you go in and learn how to question everything, every belief, every emotion, every concept, because you understand that those are driving you somewhere, then everything on the outside starts to change, because the fundamental principle behind everything is this, right? Is that we live from the inside out. What we believe and feel on the inside gets reflected on the outside, and that's what creates our lives. Everybody believes they live from the outside in. They're interacting with something outside of them, and that's dictating their experience. But in truth, it's all you.
It certainly is all us, and this has been tremendous to hear from you today, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners can certainly relate to the message you've delivered here to us today. Thanks so much. Before you go, and in conclusion, any closing thoughts, a takeaway, a tip, anything else you'd like to share as we conclude today?
There are people listening to the sound of my voice right now, just statistically speaking, that are thinking about committing suicide, that are addicted, that are hopeless, that feel lonely, who feel separate, who feel like there's no hope. And I'm here to tell you there is hope, right? And you're the answer. The problem is you don't have the right information. And that's the other thing we're trying to address in this whole industry, is that we're trying to give you the information you need to empower your life, not to make you dependent on somebody else. And that's what I would say to people. Right now on our website, we have tons of free resources to support people in this time of fear, in this time of panic, in this time of chaos and in pain. And, our movies for free right now. I just wrote an ebook on fear. And if you go to our website, which is powerful-u.com, you will find a bunch of free resources that will ultimately set you free if you integrate the information and follow the principles laid out in the books and movies.
Mr. Purpura, we certainly appreciate what you do and for joining us here today. Tremendous information and life-changing indeed. And again, thanks for your time today on eHealth Radio.
Okay, thank you. Great conversation.
It most certainly was, and let's do it again. We've been speaking with Mr. James Purpura, the creator of Powerful You, the world's first personal evolution company, award-winning filmmaker and co-author of Perception, Seeing is Not Believing. And for further details, simply visit powerful-u.com. And again, this has been your host, Eric Michaels, and we do thank you for your continued support of the eHealth Radio Network. Join us again soon for another episode that will help further expand your knowledge on those things that are important to your health and wellness. For more eHealth Radio reports, we invite you to visit our main radio channel site at eHealthRadioNetwork.com. And as always, we do thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in to the eHealth Radio Network. For more information or to subscribe to this podcast, visit eHealthRadioNetwork.com.
This episode of eHealth Radio was brought to you by uNatural, empowering your health as natural as counting sheep and much, much more effective. Try Serenity at 15% off from uNatural.com with checkout code eHealth15. Again, that is eUNatural.com, checkout code eHealth15.